The Legend of the Ironheart Gale. Prologue. The day the tides aligned. Long before the Amber Shard ever changed hands, long before bounty hunters and dark rumors filled the waves, Captain Ironhook and his ship, the Ironheart Gale, sailed far past every known route and marked sea. They crossed the strange shifting waters, called the Lost Compass Tides, where compass needles spin wildly and no map can be trusted. The very edge where all charts end, and even the bravest sailors hesitate before pushing onward. The moment they crossed that invisible line and entered the legendary Sea of Souls, the sky turned pitch black and the ocean rose up against them. A massive storm hit, set on dragging them down forever. Waves rose as tall as castle walls, and wind howled loud enough to drown out every sound, tearing sails and snapping ropes like they were thin string. The ship was being pushed straight toward sharp reefs that waited like jagged teeth, and even the bravest men began to think their time had come, for no ship had ever sailed the Sea of Souls and returned the same. So they stood shoulder to shoulder and lifted their voices high above the roar, not out of fear, but proud and unbroken. They chanted loud and strong, "We have sailed the wildest waters. We have lived by our own law." Then Captain Ironhook's voice cut clear through wind and spray. "Heave steady, lads! Stand your ground!" And the crew roared back even louder. "Let the ocean take us now. We are pirates to the core." Bootleg Blackhood stood firm right beside his captain, doing all any man could do. But even he knew there was no fighting this storm alone. Then, through sheets of flying spray and dark, blinding mist, another ship appeared. It cut right through the storm, as if the gale itself stepped aside, and at its helm stood Mara Tideveil. She did not turn away, and she did not fear the wild sea. She steered straight toward them, calling out clear directions that guided Ironhook through hidden paths no map ever showed, past dangers that would have sunk any other ship. She threw them a rope and held fast, never letting go until they broke free of the storm and drifted into calm, quiet waters. The song died on their lips, replaced by silent wonder. When the clouds parted and sunlight broke through, Ironhook boarded her ship to give his thanks. He expected a rogue or someone working for the crown, but instead he found someone who knew the sea just as he did, wild and harsh, yet worthy of respect. They talked for hours, sharing stories of faraway shores and heavy secrets. Ironhook learned she walked a lonely road, carrying burdens that could destroy many, but she never turned away those in need. For the first time in all his years at sea, he met someone who saw him not as a pirate nor as a captain, but simply as an equal bound to the same tides. As months passed, their paths crossed again and again. What started as thanks grew into respect, and respect slowly turned into a quiet, steady bond that ran deeper than any current. The crew, at first wary of this stranger, who moved like shadow and storm, soon welcomed her. She spoke little, always stood true, and never asked for more than she gave. But Bootleg Blackhood watched all this carefully. He was glad his captain had found someone who understood him, and grateful beyond words for the rescue she had given them all. Yet he also saw how quickly Ironhook had lowered his guard, how easily this woman had wrapped herself around his heart. From that day on, Blackhood swore to be twice as alert, twice as careful, and twice as loyal. He knew that where such strong feelings ran, hurt and betrayal could follow close behind. He would stand by his captain through every tide, but he would never let trust come too easily again without good reason. And so the days turned, and their bond grew strong, until the time came when Mara knew she must share the secret she carried. Chapter 1. The Gift. Captain Ironhook stood at the ship's rail as Mara Tideveil placed the amber shard in his open palm. It glowed soft and warm, as if it held a piece of the ocean's own fire. She told him it bound their fates together across all the endless deep, and that he would know when the right time came to understand its true purpose. He did not know then how heavy that bond would become, nor how much it would test every one of them. Chapter 2. The Burden. As days went by, strange things began to happen on their voyage. Winds shifted against them when they should have blown fair, and calm waters grew still and heavy like lead. The crew grew restless, and even the most experienced sailors spoke quietly about the shard and the mystery surrounding it. Ironhook kept the stone close, guarding it like he would guard his own heart. Yet he could not shake the feeling that something dark was drawing nearer. Chapter 3. The doubt before long, whispers started spreading across the seas. Stories reached them that Mara had been seen making deals with those who served the crown, and that she had handed over other sailors to save herself. Ironhook refused to believe it. Yet even he could not deny that she carried secrets she would not share. Bootleg Blackhood said very little, but his eyes grew sharper than ever, and he never strayed far from his captain's side. Chapter 4. The Rumors. The stories grew bolder and spread further. Some said she only wanted the shard to sell it to the highest bidder. Others claimed she planned to use it to bring down every captain who sailed free. No tale seemed too wild, no lie too cruel. The crew split apart. Some stood firm in their trust, others grew worried and afraid. Ironhook's heart was torn. He could not bring himself to doubt her fully, yet neither could he ignore what he kept hearing. Chapter 5. The bounty word arrived that a huge reward had been placed on Mara Tideveil's head, enough gold to buy every ship in every harbor. Royal fleets and greedy hunters all took to the waves, searching every cove and every current to find her. Nowhere was safe anymore, and the seas grew more dangerous than they had ever been. Ironhook knew he had to find the truth before those hunting her found her first. Chapter 6. The Chase. They set sail in search of her, following faint clues and strange signs across miles of open water. They were not the only ones looking. Many other ships followed close behind, driven by greed and the promise of gold. Through storm and calm, through waters no one had mapped, the chase went on, until at last the tides began pulling them toward a place few had ever seen, and even fewer had returned from. Chapter 7. The Stranded Isle. Finally the tides led them to the shifting shores, a lonely empty isle far from any shipping lane. Wedged against jagged reefs lay Mara Tideveil's ship, broken and still. She had been caught in a terrible storm and driven aground. Her holds were stuffed full of treasure, chests overflowing with silver, piles of glittering jewels, and mountains of gold that shone even in the dim light. Chapter 8. The Truth. They found her on the shore, tired but unbroken. Ironhook faced her, and at last she told him everything. She had gathered all that treasure not for herself, nor to sell it to any king or queen, but to keep it out of hands that would use it to destroy everyone who sailed free. The deals she had made were tricks, the rumors she had let spread were shields, and the shard was the key to hiding all that was precious from those who would do harm. She had never betrayed them. Every step she took had been to protect the very freedom they all loved. Chapter 9. The Choice. Ironhook knew exactly what he had to do. He would not hand her over to those hunting her, nor let the treasure fall into the wrong hands. Together they would carry out her plan and face whatever came their way side by side. Bootleg Blackhood nodded in agreement. He had been watchful, but he had never doubted his captain's heart, and now he knew his caution had served them well. Ironhook stepped onto the sand, followed close by his crew. There she stood, weary but unbowed, and he knew this was his chance. The thought burned hot and sharp in his mind. Bind her and hand her over, and that massive bounty on Mara Tideveil's head would be all his. Enough gold to buy every ship, every cove, and every tavern from here to the very edge of the world. The crew stood firm as one, while Captain Ironhook set to work, binding Mara Tideveil tight. The men began chanting loud and wild, carried away with thoughts of riches and glory. Then Bootleg Blackhood raised a hand and called out loud enough to cut through their noise, hushing them all. "Quiet now, lads. Save your roar for the taking. In glory she is ours at last. You shall have your rewards, and we shall claim our grand prize soon enough." Chapter 8. Overrun and the Fateful Choice. No sooner had the words left his mouth than fresh fleets of rival pirates swarmed toward the shore like sharks to blood, all drawn by the bounty. Many cared nothing for the shard or the crown. They wanted only Mara's head, for it alone would bring them more gold than they could steal in 10 lifetimes. A savage brawl broke out along the beach. Ironhook and his crew fought hard, but they were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Blinded by hunger for his own share of the reward, Ironhook made his fateful call. He turned his back on Mara, waded back through the surf, and boarded the Ironheart Gale. He ordered the sails raised and the anchor weighed, leaving her bound and helpless on the sand, left to face her doom at the hands of those who would kill her for the prize. They sailed away fast, never looking back. They did not know then that her death would not be the end. It would be the spark that lit a curse that settled heavy and dark over the sea of souls forevermore. Captain Ironhook set his course straight for Dead Man's Tide, that vast, endless stretch of open blue water where no law ran and no crown could reach them. Chapter 9. The curse awakens, but the peace they sought never came. Even as they sailed into the wide blue deep, the weight of what they had done clung to the ship like salt and shadow. The amber shard Ironhook had kept turned cold as ice and lost all its glow, for the bond that linked them was broken, and the curse began to creep across the waves. Winds died when they should have blown, stars vanished from the sky, and the sea itself seemed to watch them with cold, judgmental eyes. Ironhook saw then that gold and glory had bought them nothing but regret. He had chosen reward over the one soul who had saved them all, binding his crew not to freedom, but to a haunting that would sail with them until the end of time. Yet even so, they would not run. They turned their faces toward the open water, ready to face whatever came, for they were pirates, and they would walk their own path, even if it led through shadow. And so the legend grew. No longer hunted for one great prize, they were now marked by the tides themselves, yet they feared nothing and no one. They sailed where they wished, helped those who needed it, and defied the crown and all who sought to rule the waves. That great wide stretch of open sea they called Dead Man's Tide became legend, for it was there that Captain Ironhook and the Ironheart Gale sailed free and unbowed, along with his loyal crew and the ever-watchful quartermaster, Bootleg Blackhood. Their names were carved forever into the tides as one of the greatest crews to ever sail the deep. Long after their names had spread across every shore, men would tell tales of the day they chose gold over grace and of the curse that followed, and how, even then, they sailed true. Whenever old sailors gathered around fires in harbor taverns, or whenever pirates stood before the gallows with the end before them, they would lift their voices high and sing this short, fierce chant in their honor. Ironhook sails the wild tide. Ironheart Gale cuts the foam. Blackhood watches by his side. Free men never bowed to crown bound by sea, bound by steel. Their names the deep shall never steal. And so the chant rang out, spoken in whispers, shouted in defiance, sung by those still sailing and those about to meet their end. For the legend of Captain Ironhook, his ship, his quartermaster, and his crew would never die. The greatest prize of all was never gold or glory, nor something you could hold in your hand, but the life you choose to live and the tides that carry you onward, no matter what shadows lie behind you. For the sea was all they ever wanted, and the pirate's life stayed theirs through every storm and every calm. They walked free, they sailed true, and they belonged to the ocean until their very last breath.